Hey, welcome to the Bodies Built Better podcast. I'm your host, Jackie Tann, and I'm so glad that you're joining me on the very first day of 2023. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This episode is actually all about the year ahead, and I wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you about the habits or the things that I'm thinking about in the year ahead to help set me up for success. So, over the years, I've always gone into the years with a plan in place, and this year is actually a little bit different. And the reason I'm not going in with a strict plan is because the plans never go to plan. The last few years, global pandemic aside, I have found that the things that I thought that I wanted or the things that I thought I should want have either not turned out the way that I had planned them to or wanted them to or envisioned them to, or I didn't feel the deep sense of achievement and satisfaction that I thought I would feel having achieved what I thought I wanted to achieve, if that makes sense. So this year for me is a little different. And I'm not saying I'm not putting any plans in place whatsoever, but what I am doing is making sure that the things that I have got my heart and mind set on are all the things that align with who I am to my truest self. And I know you could go, well, what does that even mean? And I'll speak about that in a moment. But I just find that it's so easy to put plans in place based on what we think we need to be achieving or based on what we think is best for either ourselves or the people around us. And by the people around us, I mean whether it is friends, family, spouse, and obviously kids as well, or even workmates, colleagues and stuff. So it's easy to think about all the things that we think we need and not really getting in tune with really what is going to make us deeply happy or satisfied, and just living the life that we want to be living. So, did we get deep for a moment? Let's move into this episode. So, this could almost be really predictable for you guys, but I'm going to start this episode with habits. And before you eye roll me, and don't worry, like I've eye rolled myself the amount of times that I've said habits to myself again. But I feel like it's something that needs to come up. And the thing about habits is, if you really feel like you need to reframe it firstly before we dive in, whether they are habits or intentions or rituals, they all kind of intertwine with each other. So if words really matter and language matters to you, which it does to me, then change the language to suit you and what you need to be hearing and connecting with and what's aligned with you. Firstly, in order to move into the new year with it, you could either say good habits or healthy habits or habits that you want to start, that you feel you want to need, you actually have to understand the current habits you do have that aren't serving you right now or haven't served you. So that's where I would start, is actually reflecting on what you're currently doing that's not working. So in fact, you can move into the habits that you want to start that you feel are better for you. So for example, I'll give you something that I'm trying to change because I think it's an awful habit that I've gotten into that I'd really love to get out of. Tell me if you can relate to this. Every morning when my alarm goes off, my alarm being my phone, I pick up my phone and I open the email app, and then I open the Instagram app, and I'm flicking through all of this stuff. It's literally as soon as my alarm has gone off. And I say that out loud, and I'm like, oh, that's awful. It's such an awful habit. And look, if you do this and you're cool with it, then by all means, go ahead and keep doing it. But for me, waking up and setting up my brain in that way, I believe is really unhealthy. And I'm not sure if there are actual studies that prove that it's actually detrimental to our brain and focus throughout the day when you start that way. Either way, it's awful and I want to change it. So currently, that is a habit that I want to shake off and start anew. So then you go, well, what will you put in place of that? Because I believe in order to stop or break a current habit that you're not happy with, you need to put something in place of that so that it kind of fills a gap. And so for me, there's a few ways I can do this, but the the way that I see this being most successful and effective is if I actually put my phone in the ensuite. Well, the alarm's still on, but in order to switch it off, firstly, I have to get out of bed, which will wake me up, and then go into the ensuite and switch it off. And the reason why I think this is a game changer for me is because part of the reason I use the phone straight away in the morning once the alarm goes off is so that bright light can also wake me up, which is also not a good thing because I'm getting the wrong light. The light we need is natural light. So there's another reason why this is so important to change. So that is number one. So recognizing the habit that you don't like or that you wish to change, and then filling that habit with something else in order to make that work or stick. So whilst we're getting rid of that habit by getting up and going into the ensuite and picking it up or turning the alarm off, it's like, well, what's next? What is the actual habit that you want to put in place of that? And so for me, it's all the usual things that I in my head would happen afterwards. It's splash the face of water, get dressed, have clothes there, active wear ready to go, and then go number one, either straight into the car, into the gym, or number two, straight outside and go for a walk. So those are my habits, or that's one habit for me that I wish to start in 2023 with, reflecting on what I don't like, how I'll go about changing it, and then what's going to fill its place. So I would love to know what you are going to do. Also, with habits, I think it's really important to know that you do not have to have 1,000,000,001 new, healthy, grandiose, beautiful habits that you want to put in place because you think it's going to make you a better person or whatever reason. And the most important thing when trying to adopt new habits so that they stick long term, yes, you would have heard being sustainable is really important, and it is. But what does that even mean? How do you know something is going to be easy and sustainable for the long term? And instead of putting all of this pressure on yourself to start a new habit, big or small, I think it's important to know that starting small is actually the best way to incorporate new habits. And the reason that is because you're only committing yourself, whether it's a small amount of time or a small action. And Another example I can give you is I really, really love meditation. It's helped me, the breathing practice and I was going to say mindfulness, but the body scans and the guided meditations really helped me to get back in tune with my body and how I'm really feeling. And obviously, and most importantly, really down regulate my nervous system. So I'm back into that calm state where I can focus and I can get clarity on the things that I need or want to do, or just relax because, relaxing is important. And so there was, for me, a lot of pushback on or resistance on meditating because I thought I had to meditate for like 10, 20 minutes. And so I found it hard to find the time to do that. But then I found an app that had, as little as 5 minutes. And if you're looking the one that I use is the heavily meditated app by Caitlin Katie, one of my favorites. And she's got in there as little as 5 minutes. And literally, like, if you're not able to find 5 minutes in your day for you, this is completely for you, then I really think you need to look at what you're filling up your time with. And if 5 minutes is really too much to ask, do you have 2 minutes? 2 minutes for you in the morning, middle of the day, afternoon, in the evening, before bed, or whenever it is. 2 minutes. So starting small as 2 minutes and doing something like that every single day at the same time every single day, because I think when you can make a routine of it and know that as soon as that time goes off, or that time clicks over to the hour or whatever it is, whenever it is, and you get into that habit, it is easy to stick to long term. And it's almost like you then expect it. And it's almost like then you come to, really look forward to that time. So starting small is really important. If it's a health or dietary habit that you want to stick to, or get into the habit of doing, what is it that you firstly are doing that you're not happy with? How can you interchange it with something else? Because you're still keeping the habit, but if you can interchange it out with something else, you're actually able to then use that habit to bridge your way over to the healthy habit. So, for example, if you're anything like me, in the evenings after dinner, I am always having a cup of tea before bed, and it's normally a herbal tea, either a peppermint ginger, or a fennel tea. I love my tea. And I used to have it with a couple of pieces of chocolate. And I love that. It's something that I really loved, but it got to the point where one piece of chocolate turned into two pieces of chocolate, turned into three pieces, and then half the block was gone. And so this escalated really quickly. And when you're doing that every single night, that's a problem. It really is. And it's one of those things where it's, yes, you sort of notice the changes, but it's not until you stop that not very healthy habit that you realize all of the things that it was doing. Whether it is that weight gain, whether it is feeling, it's not good for the gut, because my gut always would not like that much chocolate. I don't know whose gut does. Or whether it's, my skin clearing up afterwards, or, there are so many different ways that these not so great habits can manifest. And when you stop them and look for, I guess, the response, the feedback, the symptoms thereafter, you can really go, oh, okay, well, that was making this sort of difference. So for me, flipping that, and instead of Instead of having half a block of chocolate with my tea, I was really disciplined and would have two pieces like a square, um, or I would completely leave the chocolate out of it, and I would actually replace it with. I still wanted something sweet. There was that still need or wanting there. So I replaced it with dried fruit, and then sometimes some nuts with it because that can go really well. And that was something that started to work. So I interchange that. Some nights it'll be dried fruit, some nights it'll be chocolate. Um, and I'm able to keep that really consistent. So no more half a block of chocolate every single night. Go me. So they're just a few things that uh, I wanted to talk about in terms of the habits that we already have that we're not so happy with, or we want to change, or we know we should change, and how to go about doing them so that we do set up ourselves for success and making sure that we keep them long term. Um, and if you feel like you're constantly reverting back to the old habits, I would actually ask why you want to change those habits then. Like, well, what is the actual reason and what's the intention behind changing the habit? Because sometimes you need to get a really good understanding of that as well. And if it's just because you think it's going to be better for you, that's not a good enough, or not so much that it's not good enough, but it's not a high priority enough that you were successful in changing it long term. You need to dig it a little bit deeper, especially if it is something that you do really want to change. So recognize the current habit, figure out how to keep the habit, but change it in a way that's positive, and how to make that stick long term with the new habit. Now, in this introduction, I said that for me, it wasn't so much about putting together massive goals with huge visions and executing all of that to achieve said vision. For me this year, it's a little bit different. And whilst I do have big goals, which will be revealed in due course, I one of my biggest goals is following my joy. And I know that can sound either a bit indulgent, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is just my thoughts behind it. But what's really important to me, and the way I operate the best, is when I am doing something that I love, that I'm so passionate about, because it's when I'm doing those things, literally, I have endless energy. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, but when you're doing the thing that you love, all time just stops. You're so absorbed in it, and you're just having the time of your life. And that is, for me, where I want to operate from all of the time. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Um, and that is not to say that I'm just going to give up all of my work. That's it. Because I know you're thinking, well, I work full time and I've got kids and I've got commitments and I've got all of these things happening. Which, yeah, I mean, we've all got something going on. We've all got things happening. And whilst I say follow your joy, or for me, the goal is to try and do things that, bring me joy. These things don't have to be big energy, time taking activities. And the reason I say that is because you can do something that takes 5 minutes, that can bring you joy, that can give you energy, and that can set you up for the day. And it's about finding those things that I think is key to enjoyment and fulfillment and excitement and satisfaction. And if you don't have any of that ever in, your weeks, then I believe that you're missing out. And, you know, it's going to be different for everyone. What brings you joy and what elicits a deep desire and passion for something will be completely different to the next person. And if you're not even sure what that is for you, and I understand that not being sure can either bring a sense of excitement for some people, or the complete opposite, where um, it's that frustration of not knowing what to do. And no matter which camp you're in, what's to stop you from trying things? What's to stop you from trying the thing that you've thought about that you've forgotten about because you got stuff to do? You've got work, you've got family commitments, you've got external commitments. And why not go back to the things that once upon a time brought you joy? Why not look back at your childhood and think about the things that brought you joy? What are the ways that you can bring that back into your life? And if it's something that you don't feel that you've got the time or place or space to do on your own, I sincerely hope you can find that time and space for you, because you deserve it. But if for some reason you can't find that time and space, then how can you find it with the people around you, with your family, with those who are with you every day? So that's my take on goals for this year. It's a little bit different if you're someone who needs goals, whether it's yearly goals and you break that down then to quarterly and then monthly goals. Fantastic. I think that's a smart way to set yourself up for success, and a really great way to know whether you're on the right path, because sometimes it's so easy to set these things up in our head that we wish to get to, but then along the way realize that maybe it's not the direction that we want to be going in. And a slight change is all you need to course correct. And I think that's really important, because otherwise, if you didn't have those goals in place and you weren't working towards them, then how would you know that they're suited to you or not? And to those who want to set goals and have big, huge, audacious visions, but are almost too overwhelmed by all of that to then go back and, start step one. If that's you, then all I say is take any step that you feel is in the right direction towards that vision. Because sometimes it's not even about the step that you take, the action that you take. It is about the fact that you are taking action. And that itself sets off this domino effect that can give you a lot of feedback. So if you're then taken down a path and you go, oh, I don't actually like where this is going. I didn't think this is what was going to come of this part of my journey. You can course correct from there. The thing is, you've then eliminated something from the action, the set of steps that you thought you may have taken, and you're able to design a new way, a new set of steps, so that you can get to the end vision eventually in a way that's truly aligned with you and feels really good. Because there's no point in doing something that feels shit at the end of the day. There's none. And I don't mean, things that don't feel good, you should stop, because there's no doubt going to be times throughout this entire process that things become hard and challenging. That's part and parcel of getting and achieving huge goals, right? Um, but if something's feeling really off and it's not in line with the vision, the end goal, that's when you need to rethink things. So I'll leave that there. Self care. Now, this is a huge one that I think, even I have a hard time making sure that I am proactive in. It's it's so typical for me to keep going until I can't, which is when I go, oh, I need to change something here. Better do something different. I better rest now, get some better sleep. But self-care is such a huge component of living well and thriving. And I think for me, and I don't know how you feel about it, but when I'm actively taking care of myself, everything else feels better. And I know you're like, well, fucking duh. Surprise. But I mean, how often are you completely putting yourself aside to put others' needs before your own? And I know that's what a lot of you as parents have to do. And it's much like the topic around habits. What can you do to, give back to you, and where can you incorporate that in your life where it doesn't feel like a huge commitment and something daunting that's going to give a lot of resistance? What is it that you can do for you that will really recharge your batteries? It can be as simple as committing to 5 minutes every single day for you, where you get to recharge, where you get to give back to you. And one thing that I find really interesting, especially for those who have families, is that your little ones, your children, are watching you. So if they're learning that you working and starting at 6 a.m. and finishing at 9 p.m. at night, they're learning that that is life. And that is how one day they will work, they will do things. That is how you have to do things. And I think it's so important that you show the habits that you want them to take on. Because if you were to see them, let's just fast forward, say 25 years, 30 years, whatever it is to make this reasonable, and they weren't looking after themselves. They weren't doing the things that they need to keep vibrant and to thrive in life. They were run down. They were working 12 to 14-hour days. Is that what you would want them to be doing? If you had a conversation with them about that, what would that sound like? And if you were to give them advice on what they could do to look after themselves that little bit better and how they could incorporate it into their lives, what would that sound like? And then ask yourself, why aren't you doing that? Now, for those of you who don't have kids to imagine that, I want you to think about this. And instead of the kids, I want you to think about your partner, your spouse, your best friend, even maybe a parent if they're still young enough to be working, and they're doing 12 to 14-hour days and they are complaining about how hard everything is, how they can't sleep, or that they need sleep, or that they wish they had some time to do something for themselves, what would you say to them? How could they change things up? And then ask yourself the same questions. What I hope to share is things that will help you think of things differently, open up the mind so that there are different ways in which we can think in order to achieve one or many goals. That's the hope here. And what's really fun is breaking down like levels of self-care, the 2 minutes of self-care and what that could look like. Maybe the 5 minutes, maybe the 30 minutes, maybe the 60 minutes, maybe the 2 hours. And once you have this list of different things that would really help you restore some balance, energy, and get you back to you, having this incredible list, you can then go, well, this is my everyday list. This is my once a week list. This is my once a fortnight list. And this is my once a month list that I love and look forward to. And so that once a month can be the massages, can be the treatments or the day spas or the whatever it is that you can't commit to regularly on a weekly or fortnightly basis, or even on a monthly basis, but you can commit to it once every 6 to 8 weeks. And it's that thing that you can look forward to, just like all of the other things. But it's figuring out what is the daily, the every other day, the weekly, the monthly, and so on. I think that's a really beautiful way of giving back to you, but also feel really good. Feel good, thrive, and enjoy those moments for you. So, very much the theme of this episode and the first day of 2023 has very much been around, the habits and all of the things that you want to do for you that have really help set you up for success or whatever success means to you. But really taking care of you, because when you take care of you, that takes care of all the rest. And when you have habits and goals in place, it becomes easier. I'm not going to say it's easy because this is life and it is a roller coaster. Things are sometimes cruisy and sometimes they're really hard and difficult to get through, but here we are. We've been through hard things. We've been through difficult things. There will be more to come, but there are also more amazing and wonderful things in life. And when you can take some agency in how you live intentionally and make enjoyment and excitement and happiness, at the core of everything you do, then I feel like things do get easier. And if they don't get easier, they certainly become more enjoyable and bearable if that's how you work. But I think it's really important that, you know, we take care of ourselves. I really do. So I hope this has helped you in one way or another. I would really love to know. I'd really love to hear from you about what you are doing differently this year. If you are doing something differently, I'd love to know what your self-care rituals are or what you would love to incorporate, and whether these ideas really resonate with you, or whether you've got some new habits that you want to be building into 2023. Either way, I want to hear what you've got, because that excites me. And like I said at the beginning, when I'm doing something that I really love and it brings a lot of joy, it gives me so much more energy to keep going. And this podcast and hearing from you guys is something that I really love and brings me so much joy. So as always, thank you for listening in. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen in today. Get in touch if you'd love to chat more about habits or goals or self-care routines, because I'd really love to know what you're doing. Have the absolute most spectacular year in 2023. Have the best start, have the best January, and I cannot wait to keep coming at you with some really fun ideas, some amazing guests, and hopefully bring you more inspiration, educate you further in all the things that you want to know about you, your body, and of course, performing at your absolute best. Again, thank you. I'll catch you next time.